The warning alarm inside Elias's helmet echoed through the frozen control room. Suit temperature critical. External environment unstable. He ignored it. The alien mother's breathing was still weak. Tiny crystals of ice clung to her face. Even with the heat from the overloaded cutter and controlled mining charges, her body temperature was climbing far too slowly. Elias looked around the room. Humans had survived deserts, oceans, mountains, and the vacuum of space. They had done it because they refused to accept impossible. Maybe this was another one of those moments. He unclipped the emergency thermal lining from inside his own suit. It was designed to keep a human alive for several hours in freezing space. Without it, his own body temperature would begin falling quickly. He wrapped the thermal blanket around the alien woman instead. Instantly, his suit flashed another warning: internal heat protection disabled. His hands began to shake. "Come on," he whispered. "Fight." The scanner beeped. Core temperature rising, only 1 degree, not enough. Still, it was something. Then another alarm appeared. Power reserve, 18%. Elias frowned. The overloaded thermal cutter was draining every remaining energy cell. When the power died, so would the heat. He quickly searched the damaged bridge. Broken consoles, shattered control panels, destroyed navigation systems. Nothing useful. Then his flashlight caught something buried beneath a layer of ice. A large circular device. Alien technology. Half buried beneath frozen debris. He knelt beside it and wiped away the frost. Strange, glowing symbols slowly appeared across its surface. The device wasn't dead. It was sleeping. His scanner detected a tiny amount of remaining energy. Very tiny, but enough to make Elias curious. "What are you?" He connected one of his portable diagnostic cables. Immediately, the symbols began changing. The translator inside his helmet struggled to understand them. Unknown language. Analyzing. Then one word finally appeared. Emergency reactor. Elias's eyes widened. No way. If he could restart it, the entire ship might regain heat. Lights. Life support. Everything. But the reactor required a biological authorization. It wasn't built for humans. He sighed. Of course it isn't. The reactor suddenly projected a hologram into the air. Blue light filled the frozen room. Dozens of alien symbols floated around him. His helmet translated only fragments. Crew identification required. Captain authorization missing. Manual override. Possible. Manual override. That sounded very human. Elias smiled. "You left me a chance." He removed his multi-tool. It wasn't made for alien technology. Neither was duct tape or zip ties. Yet somehow humans always made things work. He opened the reactor casing. Inside, hundreds of tiny crystal circuits pulsed with weak light. Beautiful, complicated, completely unfamiliar. But electricity always followed rules. He traced the damaged power channels. One crystal had shattered during the crash. Energy couldn't flow anymore. "So that's your problem." He searched through his equipment pouch. Nothing matched. Then he looked at his own suit battery. The connector, almost the same size. Almost. Close enough. He laughed softly. "Engineers back home would kill me for this." Carefully, he removed the connector from his emergency battery and reshaped it using the thermal cutter. Metal glowed orange. He bent it with pliers, filed the edges, then carefully inserted it into the broken circuit. Nothing happened. For 3 long seconds. Nothing. Then, a faint vibration spread through the deck. The reactor hummed. Lights flickered across the bridge, one after another. Darkness slowly disappeared. The alien consoles awakened. Soft golden light filled the room. Warm air drifted through broken vents. Elias looked at the scanner. Temperature increasing 40 degrees, 45, 50. Steam filled the bridge as decades of frozen ice began melting. The alien mother's fingers twitched. Elias rushed beside her. "That's it. Stay with me." Her breathing became stronger. Color slowly returned to her pale blue skin. Then, her eyes opened, only slightly, confused, weak. She stared directly at Elias. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Finally, she whispered something. His translator processed the words. "Human?" Elias nodded. "Yeah. You are safe." She looked around the room in disbelief. "The reactor. You repaired it?" "Sort of. You rebuilt it? With primitive tools?" Elias scratched the back of his helmet. "I improvised." The alien woman closed her eyes for a second. When she opened them again, there were tears. "Our greatest engineers. They said it was impossible." Elias smiled. Humans hear that word a lot. Suddenly, every console on the bridge lit up bright red. An emergency alert echoed through the ship. The translator spoke in a cold, mechanical voice. "Warning. Unknown vessels detected. Hostile approach." Elias turned toward the main screen. Several enormous ships were emerging from hyperspace. 1, 3, 5, then 12. Each one nearly 20 times larger than the wrecked vessel. Their black hulls blocked the distant stars. The alien mother's face lost all color. "No. They found us." "Who?" She stared at the screen with absolute terror. "The Karox Dominion. They don't take prisoners." Outside, powerful search beams swept across the asteroid field. The enemy fleet had already begun scanning every piece of debris. Elias looked at his oxygen timer. Less than 2 hours remained. His own ship waited several kilometers away, completely defenseless. If the Dominion found it, the little girl would die too. As if reading his thoughts, the radio crackled. "Human." It was the child. "They're here. I can see them." Her frightened breathing filled his helmet. "Are they coming for us?" Elias didn't answer immediately. He kept staring at the enormous warships. Thousands of weapons, thousands of soldiers, one human, one injured alien mother, one frightened child. The odds couldn't have been worse. Then, one small light blinked on the restored control panel. The alien mother slowly reached toward it. Her hands still trembled. She pressed a single glowing symbol. Deep beneath the ship, something awakened. A hidden compartment slowly opened. Inside rested an ancient object covered in silver markings. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't an engine. It looked like a map. The holographic image expanded into the air. Entire star systems appeared before them. Then one location began flashing bright red. The alien mother's eyes widened in horror. "It survived." Elias frowned. "What survived?" She looked directly at him. "The vault of humanity." His heartbeat stopped. "The what?" She swallowed slowly. "The greatest secret in our galaxy. And every empire would start a war to possess it." The bridge fell completely silent. Elias stared at the glowing star map while countless red symbols pulsed across the hologram. They spread like wildfire from one solar system to another until almost half the galaxy was covered in crimson light. Outside, the massive Dominion fleet drifted closer. Each warship was larger than an entire human city. Their engines illuminated the frozen asteroid field with an eerie violet glow. The alien mother slowly stood from the command chair. She was still weak, but the reactor's warmth had saved her life. She looked at the ancient projection with fear instead of hope. "You cannot let them find this." Elias folded his arms. "I still don't know what I'm looking at." She took a slow breath. "My name is Larina. My daughter is Kaya. We belong to the Solari Accord." Elias nodded quietly. "The Dominion destroyed our home fleet searching for one thing." She touched the floating map. "The vault." Another hologram appeared. This one showed humans. Not modern humans. Ancient humans. Men and women building enormous structures on distant worlds thousands of years ago. Elias frowned. "That's impossible. Humanity only reached nearby space 2 centuries ago." Lyrina shook her head. "That is what your people were told." The words hit Elias like a punch. Before he could ask another question, alarms echoed through the ship. "Warning. Enemy scan detected." Purple beams swept across the asteroid field. One of them briefly crossed Elias's own cargo ship hidden behind the ice. Kaya's frightened voice came over the radio. "They're scanning your ship." Elias grabbed the communicator. "Stay calm." "I'm trying." "They're getting closer." He looked through the cracked bridge window. 3 Dominion drones had broken away from the fleet. Unlike the giant warships, these machines were small, fast, and deadly. Each one carried enough weapons to destroy a transport vessel. "They'll find you in minutes," Lyrina whispered. Elias looked around the damaged bridge. There was no working weapon, no shields, no escape route, only one functioning reactor. Then he smiled. Humans rarely won by having better weapons. They won by making the enemy believe something that wasn't true. "Can your reactor still produce power?" Lyrina nodded. "For a short time." "Good." He opened the engineering controls. Most of the systems were barely functioning, but one thing still worked. External energy emitters. He rerouted every remaining watt into them. "What are you doing?" Lyrina asked. "Making them think this wreck is alive." The damaged ship suddenly burst with energy. Lights illuminated every corridor. Communications arrays activated. Long-range antennas unfolded. The dead ship suddenly looked operational, exactly as Elias intended. Outside, the Dominion drones instantly changed course. Instead of flying toward Elias's transport, they raced toward the wreck. Kaya gasped over the radio. "They turned around." Elias smiled. "Good." But the smile disappeared seconds later. The Dominion wasn't fooled for long. One drone stopped. Its scanners pulsed brighter. It had noticed something. "They're analyzing the energy signature," Lyrina said. "They'll know it's fake. Then we give them something else." Elias sprinted through the corridor toward the engineering bay. Behind him, Lyrina followed despite her weakness. "What are you planning?" "I'll let you know when I figure it out." The engineering room was filled with broken machinery. Half the equipment was buried beneath frozen debris. Elias searched desperately. Then he found it. Compressed plasma tanks. Huge ones. An idea formed instantly. Crazy. Dangerous. Perfect. He connected the tanks to the damaged engine exhaust. Lyrina suddenly understood. "You want them to explode. I want them to think they destroyed us." He programmed a 30-second timer. Then both of them hurried back toward the bridge. Outside, the drones locked onto the wreck. Energy cannons charged. Blue light gathered beneath their wings. "They're firing!" Bright beams tore through space. The first blast struck the rear engines. Metal exploded. The second blast hit the cargo section. Fire erupted inside the frozen ship. Then, the timer reached 0. Every plasma tank detonated at once. A gigantic explosion erupted from the wreck. Flames burst through every corridor. Chunks of glowing metal scattered across the asteroid field. Even the Dominion drones were thrown backward by the blast. From a distance, it looked exactly like total destruction. Elias watched carefully. One drone scanned the debris. Another reported back to the fleet. Finally, they all turned away. "They believe we're dead," Lyrina whispered. Kaya cheered over the radio. "They're leaving." For the first time since receiving the distress call, Elias allowed himself to breathe, but only for a second. The ancient star map suddenly changed, without anyone touching it. New symbols appeared. A soft voice echoed through the bridge. Not from the translator, not from the ship, from the map itself. Human genetic signature confirmed. Everyone froze. The hologram expanded across the room. Stars disappeared. A single blue planet rotated slowly before them. Earth. Then another sentence appeared. Guardian protocol awakened. Elias stepped closer. "What is this?" the voice answered. "Final inheritance of the first builders." Images flooded the room. Towering cities stretching above clouds. Human explorers walking beside dozens of alien species. Gigantic gateways connecting entire galaxies. Peace, prosperity, discovery. Then everything changed. Dark ships filled the sky. Planets burned. Entire civilizations vanished. Finally, the last humans sealed something inside a hidden world. The hologram ended. Silence returned. Lyrina looked as if she had seen a ghost. Our oldest legends were true. Elias stared at the floating earth. No, he whispered. They're not legends. Another message appeared. Vault location locked. Access granted only to a descendant of Earth. A beam of light suddenly scanned Elias from head to toe. His wrist burned. He pulled back his glove. A glowing silver symbol had appeared beneath his skin. It wasn't a wound. It was a mark. The map instantly folded into a tiny crystal no larger than his palm. It floated gently into his hand. At that exact moment, every Dominion warship stopped moving. Across the void, one enormous flagship slowly rotated. Its main cannon began charging, not toward the wreck, toward Elias's hidden cargo ship. A cold mechanical transmission echoed across every communication channel in the sector. Unknown human, you now possess property of the Dominion. Surrender the artifact, or we erase every living soul within this star system. Elias tightened his grip on the glowing crystal. For the first time, he realized this rescue mission had never been about saving one family. It had become the beginning of a war that could decide the future of humanity itself. The Dominion flagship's transmission echoed across the frozen star system. Unknown human, surrender the artifact, or this system will be erased. No anger, no emotion, only absolute certainty. Captain Elias Vaughn looked through the cracked viewport as the enemy's main cannon gathered enough energy to split a moon in half. Violet lightning danced around its barrel, turning the surrounding space into a storm of glowing plasma. Kaya's frightened voice trembled through the radio. Human, are we going to die? Elias stayed silent for a moment. Then he smiled. Not today. Lyrina looked at him in disbelief. There are 12 battleships out there. I counted. They can destroy planets. I noticed. She shook her head. You don't understand. The Dominion has conquered more than 400 civilizations. Elias clipped the glowing crystal onto his belt. And yet they're threatening one cargo pilot. Lyrina frowned. What do you mean? If they're this powerful, why are they afraid of one little crystal? The question hung in the air. She had no answer. Suddenly, the crystal pulsed. A thin beam of white light shot toward the bridge floor, forming another hologram. This time, it wasn't a map. It was an old human. His hair was silver. His uniform carried symbols no one alive had ever seen. His calm eyes settled on Elias. If you are seeing this, the hologram said, then humanity has survived. Elias stepped closer. Who are you? My name is Admiral Nathan Mercer. I am the final guardian of the first expedition. The hologram expanded, revealing thousands of stars. Thousands of years ago, humanity reached the stars long before history remembers. Images appeared around them. Human ships crossed galaxies. They didn't conquer. They helped. They built hospitals, research worlds, and peaceful colonies alongside dozens of alien races. We believed knowledge should belong to everyone. The hologram darkened. Then another empire rose. Massive black fleets appeared, worlds burned, entire civilizations vanished. They demanded control over every discovery humanity had ever made. Elias immediately thought of the Dominion, but Mercer shook his head. No. They were called the Eternal Throne. The Dominion was born from the survivors of that empire. Lyrina's breathing stopped. Our oldest history was real. Mercer continued. Rather than allow our greatest inventions to become weapons, humanity hid them. The hologram zoomed toward a lonely, frozen planet. The vault. It does not contain superweapons. It contains something far more dangerous. What? Elias whispered. The ability to end scarcity. Another series of images appeared. Machines turning deserts into forests. Devices creating unlimited clean energy. Medical technology curing diseases within seconds. Food generators feeding entire planets. Mercer looked directly at Elias. Empires are built on controlling resources. If no one controls food, or energy, or medicine, then no empire can survive. Silence filled the bridge. Lyrina slowly understood. The vault doesn't win wars. It ends the reason for wars. Mercer nodded. Exactly. Then his expression became serious. But the vault will only open for someone willing to protect every civilization equally. The hologram suddenly disappeared. The crystal dimmed. Outside, the Dominion flagship finished charging. Its cannon was ready. A countdown echoed through every channel. 5. Kaya began crying. 4. Lyrina lowered her head. There isn't enough time. Elias looked around the bridge. His eyes landed on the restored reactor, then on the asteroid surrounding the wreck, then toward the enormous enemy fleet. An impossible idea appeared. He laughed. Lyrina stared at him. Why are humans always smiling before doing something insane? Because the crazy ideas usually work. He rushed toward the reactor controls. This asteroid? What about it? It isn't solid. She checked the sensors. Her eyes widened. It's hollow. Exactly. The asteroid wasn't a rock. It was mostly frozen gas trapped beneath a thick shell of ice. One concentrated explosion could create an expanding cloud millions of kilometers wide. Enough to blind every Dominion sensor. Not enough to destroy them, but enough to disappear. He overloaded the reactor one final time. Warning lights flashed everywhere. Core instability detected. Lyrina grabbed his arm. If that reactor explodes, it won't. You sound very confident. I'm actually guessing. She sighed. Humans. The Dominion countdown continued. 3. Elias connected the reactor directly into the asteroid's frozen core. Energy surged beneath the ice. Tiny cracks raced across its surface. 2. He looked toward his cargo ship. Kaya. Yes? The moment you see a bright flash, close your eyes. She didn't ask why. I trust you. Those 3 words strengthened Elias more than any weapon ever could. 1. The Dominion cannon fired. A beam brighter than a star crossed the void. At that exact second, Elias triggered the reactor. The asteroid erupted, not with fire, with light. An ocean of frozen gas instantly expanded into space, becoming an enormous glowing cloud. The Dominion beam struck the cloud instead of the ships. Its energy scattered in every direction. Sensors failed. Communications collapsed. The entire battlefield vanished inside a blinding storm of ice crystals. Dominion officers shouted across every channel. Target lost! We've lost visual. Navigation offline. For exactly 47 seconds, the most powerful fleet in known space was completely blind. 47 seconds. For most civilizations, that meant nothing. For humans, it was forever. Elias ignited every thruster. His small cargo ship shot through the glowing cloud while the Dominion fired blindly into empty space. Behind him, Lyrina steered the repaired Solari vessel using manual controls. Together, they slipped through gaps between enemy warships only a few hundred meters apart. No advanced AI, no superior weapons, only timing, courage, and human instinct. Seconds later, the cloud began clearing. Dominion sensors returned. The fleet searched frantically. Nothing. The human had vanished. Inside hyperspace, Kaya finally smiled. We escaped. Elias leaned back in his seat. For now. The crystal suddenly glowed again. One final message appeared. Destination confirmed. Coordinates unfolded across the navigation screen. Not Earth, not a colony, not any known star system. A place beyond every explored map. Lyrina stared at the coordinates. No ship has ever returned from there. Elias started the engines. Then we'll be the first. Far behind them, inside the Dominion flagship, the Supreme Commander watched the disappearing hyperspace trail. He wasn't angry. He was smiling. Excellent. His officers looked confused. We failed, Commander. No. He clasped his hands behind his back. We finally found the human descendant. He turned toward the stars. Prepare the entire Dominion. For the first time in 3,000 years, the hunt has truly begun.